build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance to spit in his eye. Oh, well, they gave me ball, but I can see between to a dusty yard and a long gone green. They call that freedom, if you know what I mean. And I dry my sorrows, but the whiskey's gone. I'm sober as good.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Longbangers. Matty, this is episode 151. Joined tonight by Colin and special guest Eilidh Barbour. So, Eilidh, come you first. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
No bother. We wanted to try and find somebody who's had a worse season than Hibs had, but we couldn't find anybody that would own up to being a Dundee fan, and Willie Miller flat out refused to come on, so
I am.
St was next.
I mean, what a result today for you to get me on the back of as well.
I know, we've been saying all sorts of folk to try and make that happen, and we never expected a James Scott hat-trick, to be fair, so anyway, thanks for coming on, and also Colin, how are you doing?
Good, mate. I'm good. I've had a long day today, going around all the grounds, but I'm here and ready to go.
So Colin was at under 12s, Hibs under 12s, Hibs first team, Hibs ladies.
Yeah, three games in the row. Yeah,
that's
so bouncing between East Mains to Easter Road up to Pennycook Park. So,
and is that your community service finished now, Colin? Are you
that's all done. So hours got completed. Yeah.
So just for today, we're going to have a wee quick chat about the game. Probably not spend too long about that, and then because Eilidh's on, we'll ask you a wee bit about Eilidh's career and find out a bit about that, a bit about St Johnstone's season and the comparison between how St Johnstone have approached the season and how Hibs have gone about it. And then we'll go on to some short bangers questions as well. So, an unusual Hibs win today. Eilidh, did you see much of the game?
No, I actually would have gone to Easter Road if there was anything riding on the game, but after Wednesday night, I opted to spend a rare Sunday off doing things I enjoy, which unfortunately St Johnstone's not creeping into that this season. So I listened to it on the radio. When it got to 2-0, I turned it off and I went to the gym. That's how bad it was. It got me to the gym. But yeah, no, a pretty disastrous end to what's been a pretty disastrous season for St Johnstone, sadly. But it is what it is. We've got 2 games to save ourselves, so let's hope that we can get the job done there.
Well, fingers crossed. St Johnstone been a bit of a bogey team for us over the last few years. We never seem to get like a decent result. I certainly didn't see it coming today. Colin, what was your take on the game?
It was just an end of season game. I heard Callum Davidson on the radio after it, actually, and he pretty much just said we had to play the game. Like, we've rested a few guys like Halberg and that were on the bench, and they just turned up today just because they had to. And Hibs it was just an end of season game. I was just running a bit of luck, got a bit of luck for a couple of the goals, and just a bit dull, really. Like, which has been probably the whole season for us. But today was just a bit boring, really.
Typical end of season fair.
Yeah.
You're glad to see the back of the season, Eilidh?
Yeah, I will be on Monday night if it all goes our way, or whatever happens. I'll be glad to see the back of it. It's just been a difficult season, I think, and I don't think. I mean, I think other than Celtic, Rangers, and Hearts, I think everyone's found it difficult. There's not been really a single team that have gone on any sort of consistent run or found any real form. I mean, you're looking at, Dundee United, very happy of where they are. Their fans showed that yesterday up in Dingwall. But I mean, you even looked at Motherwell in 5th place, and there's a certain element of their fans who are wanting Graham Alexander out. And you think you finish 5th, you're in Europe, and it's incredible. But I think it's just the run or the way the season's been for so many teams. It's not perhaps been the best of seasons to watch outside of those top 3 and possibly Dundee United in there as well.
Why do you think that is?
I've no idea. It's been exciting from a broadcaster's point of view because nothing was finalised until Wednesday night there. So for everything to go down, obviously other than top, bottom 6, but everything to go down to the penultimate game of the season, that's what you want. You want it to go on as long as you can. So title wasn't won. Obviously Hearts in 3rd place was done pretty much by Christmas, but the title wasn't done. They were still fighting for European places on the last day of the season. Relegation hadn't been confirmed. Playoff place hadn't been confirmed. So you sort of think when you look at that, that's what you want from a neutral perspective. If you're looking at the league, you want everything to go down to the wire. But yeah, we sort of look back at the form of so many teams. And I don't know why it's like that. I don't know if it's a hangover from having no fans in last season and everything that had to go into. I mean, the players had to motivate themselves a lot more last season, I would say, than any other season. I don't know if that had a bearing on this season, but it's been a strange season. I mean, it's like I say, so many teams have really struggled to find any sort of consistency, any sort of run of form, and yeah, I mean, but yet at the same time, we've got 3 teams in the group stages of European football to look forward to next season. So it has been a very, very good season, and we've got a European Cup final for a Scottish club on Wednesday, which is incredible and fantastic for our game. So it's been a weird season. Weird.
We'll know admit that it being fantastic for them. We'll just skip on past that wee bit.
I said Hearts too many times there, didn't I? I'm going to get thrown off this podcast.
Colin, we've got a James Scott hat-trick as well. Who saw that coming?
I don't think. Well, Leon of the group chat mentioned that he predicted it against Dundee, didn't he? But I think he was saying it flippantly rather than expecting it. But he actually, his third goal, he took it really well, the header. Like, it was a really, really good header. He's kind of shown a flash there in the last 2 games that you go, oh, maybe he's worth a shot next year. Like, if he can play like those 2 games. But then you've got to take into account he's been here all season, and he's not shown it until the last 2 when he's shown flashes. So I guess it depends on whoever's making the decisions on the signings, if he was to stay or not. But it was. I don't think anybody expected that, to answer the question.
Oh, good to see it though, because he last week there was one of the fans got on his back, like had almost offered him out for a square go. As he was warming up, he went to sign some autographs or get some selfies with some fans, and this boy took exception to it and was I think then got chucked out the ground for trying to fight James Scott. But in terms of motivational conversations, it seems to have done the trick.
We actually got a talking point sent in. I can't remember who it was from. Right? It says, "Is the boy who gave James Scott pelters last week the world's greatest motivator?" That's the question.
Like McDermott Park. That's all I want.
And I suppose other notable things, you end of season games, you always kind of get the players that are sort of saying their goodbyes. And from a Hibs point of view, we think we had Darren McGregor, but from a St Johnstone point of view, Liam Craig's finishing up. How has he been for St Johnstone?
He's over 2 spells. He's been magnificent, and he's going into the coaching staff, so he'll still be around the club and hopefully giving some words of wisdom. But yeah, he's been a great servant to the club, and he's even when he struggled, sort of the latter stages of his career in terms of on the pitch, he had an influence of it, and it was. I mean, I decided back to the club, and you know what kind of player you're getting, what kind of guy you're getting, what kind of player in the dressing room you're getting. So yeah, I think he's been brilliant for St Johnstone, and I'm very glad that he's going to still be around and do some coaching at the club, and yeah, hopefully he can bring back some success. I mean, I talk about success, and it's a strange thing because probably where we are this season is where we should be. Mm-hmm. And, since we got promoted back under Derek McInnes, we've just punched above our weight season after season after season. So it feels strange to be where we are right now, but this, realistically, financially, size of club, all of that is probably where we should be. And we've become a little bit used to being somewhere at the other end of the table. But yeah, hopefully Liam and the rest of the coaching staff can try and get us back up, punching above our weight again, if we stay in the top flight. Liam Craig obviously had a spell as Hibs captain as well. What do you remember about his time at Hibs?
Well, the biggest memory, I suppose, he scored that goal against Rangers, didn't he? And was it 4-0 at Christmas time? I quite liked Liam Craig. He got a hard time because he was captain when we got relegated. But I always thought he was a better player than he got credit for at Hibs. But I know I'll probably get hammered for saying that now because there's a lot of folk don't agree with that point of view. But I did say it at the time, didn't I, Matthew? So it's not. I'm not just saying that because he's retiring and that now. I quite liked him. Just never fulfilled his sort of potential, I suppose, at Hibs, if that's the right words to use for a guy that age. But you know what I mean? He just never done what he done at St Johnstone at Hibs.
I always thought he got a hard time at Hibs, if I'm honest. I thought he got a hard time. Because he'll play anywhere as well. That's the thing. He'll know he's not a left back, or he'll know he's not a winger, or he'll know whatever, but he'll still go in and give you 100% in whatever role you put him on a pitch. And that for me is like, that's all you can ask of an honest professional. And he's done that for St Johnstone, like I say, over 2 spells.
The other players that were at Hibs at the time speak very highly of him as a captain. I think they all rated him. The other thing that he was notable for at Hibs, he scored the penalty against Hearts that made the fan disappear. I don't know if you've ever seen that footage. Really,
I think I have.
It's amazing. The guy just jumps and then disappears. I don't know what if he's ever been seen since, but I always thought it was like a neat trick for Liam Craig if he made it happen. Probably not much else to say about the game. We call Darren McGregor, just a wee point on McGregor. Then, do you think we've seen the last of him in a playing capacity?
I assume so. They made him captain today. He never got subbed or anything, which is normally it would have been I would have said yes, definitely, if they had been. But Pochus had to go off injured, I think, so that might have been why he never got taken off. But he made him captain, and I've seen his after-match interview with whoever it was, Hibs TV, I think, and he was quite emotional in that, although he never said that's my last game or anything. I'm reading between the lines that it will be. I don't know how old he is, but he's going to, this will be him. This will be him retired, I think.
34 or 35, I think, around about that age.
Is that all he is?
Aye. I think so. Just a young.
I know.
So we look at going on to the kind of overall seasons then. So, like I was kind of joking at the start with St Johnstone having a worse season than Hibs. Last season, obviously kind of made history by winning the double, which was, I mean, obviously Hibs fans will not be happy about it because it was us beating the final. But how does it feel going from a season like that into a season like this one?
It's weird. I mean, last season I didn't go to any of the games at Hampden. I probably could have, but it's not the same for me not going with my dad and my family and the people who I would normally go to the games with, like big games like that. And so I just decided to go home and watch it with them in the house, because otherwise I'm sitting on my own in Hampden and it's nothing. So it still feels surreal that happened, because it was all watched in my parents' living room on a telly. But at the same time, I think as well, it's never been given the credit. And I'm not saying this as a St Johnstone fan. It's never been given the credit that deserved. That for me is bigger than anything that's happened in domestic British football. It's bigger than Leicester winning the Premier League. I mean, it's the odds on a team the size of St Johnstone winning both domestic trophies. Outside of Celtic and Rangers, Aberdeen are the only team that's ever managed managed a double. And St Johnstone did it. And it's just remarkable. And I think that's the sort of thing when you're watching all the end of season awards and you're watching, I don't know, sports personality of the year, whatever it might be, and it's not even mentioned. And you think, this is huge what happened. Like, potentially never going to happen again for any team outside of Celtic and Rangers in Scottish football. So for St Johnstone to do it was just mad. And the final, I mean, I think both finals, 7 of the starting 11 pretty much were either through the academy or from the local area. Like, it's almost homegrown teams. You're not buying players in to win you trophies. These are players that have come through academy or grown up around the area or fans of the club. And yeah, just something that I don't think was ever given the credit it should have been given. And it's also, I think, quite similar when you look at what happened to Leicester after they won the Premier League. That season they won the Premier League, barely an injury. Everybody was on form, banging in the goals. Everything just worked for them. And that happened for St Johnstone last season. And this season, we've had injury after injury after injury. We've lost our captain. We lost one of the best players I've seen in a St Johnstone shirt in a very, very long time in Ali McCann. And it's been impossible to replace those two with the notice we've had, with it being on the last day of the window. It's impossible to replace somebody like Ali McCann anyway, because those players cost a lot more money than Preston paid. They got a bargain, in my opinion. And then, injuries to really key players that have been out for really long term. We've lost every single player for 3-4 weeks at a time minimum, even our goalkeeper.
Yeah.
So it's been really difficult to get any consistency in selection. Then with the players leaving, the board backed Callum. He brought in nearly 11 players or something in January. Try to bed them in, trying to get his points across there. Not everybody who came in was coming in as a player that could go straight into the team. We had players coming in who needed a bit of time to get up to pace, or, not fully fit. I still don't think, I think we know Chifchi is a very good player in this league, but I don't think he's fully fit yet. Theo Bair's come over from Canada. He's got to get up to speed. Itu Vartainen, who came in, has gone over to Ireland to try and get some more games under his belt. So players coming in are on the budget that St Johnstone have. I think next season, I'm hoping, will show that these players are the right players to come into the club, but they just couldn't go in and hit the ground running this season. And it's just been difficult. Everything's been difficult. But, you talk about the comparison between St Johnstone and Hibs' season, and I'm very glad that the board have stuck with Callum. I think not even just off the back of last season. I think stability is really important for a football club, and he came in, he showed that he can have success, and I think it would have been very harsh to get rid of him off the back of last season, given everything that he's had to deal with this season.
You think, for the outside looking in, that Hibs were probably hasty in getting rid of Jack Ross? Would you have thought they would have stuck by him a bit longer, or do you think it was right to make the change when they did?
I thought that it was harsh, to be honest. I know there was no silverware last season, and Hibs fans probably think there should have been. You look at who you're playing. I mean, I'm a St Johnstone fan. I can say if you're a Hibs fan and you're thinking, we're playing St Johnstone in a final, you're thinking you're taking the trophy home. Let's be honest. And it didn't work out that way. And even in the semi-final, you're looking at the teams you could potentially play in the final, and you're thinking, we'll beat St Johnstone and then we'll win the cup. Doesn't happen. So I understand that there would have been frustrations there, but to get a team to Hampden that many times in one season, finish third. And I know it was a bad run, and I know managers are judged on form. But he'd started the season well. Hibs were in a good position. Yes, it was a bad run, but I did think it was a bit harsh to sack him on the back of that run. And then to sack him on the back of that run and then appoint somebody in their first job, I thought was a strange decision. As good as Sean Maloney may well be in the future, didn't work for him at Hibs, but he's clearly a very, very good coach because of, he's been part of very good coaching setups. He clearly knows what he's doing, but it didn't work for him at Hibs. But I still thought it was an interesting decision to make that move so quickly to bring in somebody who was unknown in that managerial seat.
Yeah, and Colin, if Hibs had the season that St Johnstone had last season and then had the season that we had this season, do you think there would have still been the push to get rid of Jack Ross from a big chunk of the support?
I think so. I do think there would be a definite, whether it be a minority or a sort of noisy minority, I don't know how big it would be. But yes, I think they would. I think so. If he had won both cups last year, we're thinking it's a hard one because he might have got a move. He might have got a move on the back of it. That's probably what would have happened. He would have probably left us and bolted back down to the Championship in England or something. That's probably what would have happened. Yeah. We would never have got the choice to see. But that's not the question, is it? So I think there would have been a large element complaining, yes, and wanting him sacked. But whether and the board probably would do that based on that, based on what we've seen with the last two managers. So he probably would have got sacked if that had happened, yes.
Would you have expected somebody to come in for Callum, Eilidh, this season then? Were you surprised that he stayed at St Johnstone?
Yeah, I was surprised nobody came in for him. I was. I'm glad he stayed. I looked back actually recently. I can't remember what triggered it, but I looked back to see how many managers St Johnstone had in the time that I've been going to watch them. When I first started going to watch them was the start of Paul Sturrock's reign as St Johnstone manager. Mm-hmm. And I think it was 7 permanent managers in that time. So we're going back to like 94 here. So nearly 20 years, if that's my maths is right. Was that nearly 30 years? God, how old am I? Anyway, 94. 94 I started going. So I think it's 7 or 8 permanent managers St Johnstone have had in that time. And yes, we've not always been a successful club, but we've been a club that's had stability. And during that time, we have had successes. I mean, back in 99, 2000, we finished 3rd behind Celtic and Rangers. We played Monaco at McDermott Park, and in the UEFA Cup, we've won 3 trophies. We've had more European trips than I could ever have imagined possible when I was a youngster growing up, and top 6 finishes. And I sort of look at that and think, do you get the rewards for sticking by people and for having that stability in a club? It's why people far higher up than any of us get to make these decisions. But I do think there is something in sticking by people and having trust in them and faith in them, because that's why you gave that person the job in the first place. But it's very easy for us sitting here to say that, because football is a weird world that works in a very different way to many other worlds. And I mean, you even look at Celtic this season, and a lot of, how many would have stuck behind Ange Postecoglou with the start that he had to the season, and look what he's gone and done there. And Steven Gerrard, even at Rangers, it took him 2-3 seasons to win a trophy, and he brings the title, which is the one that they wanted, but they stuck by him through a couple of seasons with nothing. A lot of clubs would not have stood for that previously. So I don't know. I think there's something in that, having that faith, but at the same time, it's.
We've used St Johnstone as an example before. Sorry, we've used St Johnstone as an example before about sticking with a manager when it was Tommy Wright. Tommy Wright was there, 10 years?
Tommy Wright's a great example for it.
And then and sticking by it to allow it to the sort of consistency and all that throughout recruitment and all that kind of stuff. Whereas we're a constant churn. We've just recorded our extra programme before this, talking about timeline of the season and talking about how January we got 7 players, we think, I can't even remember, 7 in, and then we're going to go through all that again in the summer, and it's just like a constant churn of players. Whereas if you've got a consistency of management, that doesn't happen. But we've 7 managers in 30 years. Like what we're at about, we're
about 7 a season.
Easy. I know we're probably 20 since '94. It's mad. It's mad amounts of managers.
There is an argument, I think, as well. If you stick through a manager through a difficult time, you get a better manager out the other side, because they've learned from that experience. Whereas whoever they go on to gets the benefit of that experience, rather than the club that's persevered or not hasn't persevered with them. Colin, do you have any other talking points that came out for Twitter just before we move on and ask you a little bit about our career?
So. Well, the main stuff was about James Scott. We've kind of covered it. I guess a lot of people asking, would you take him back next season? Would he be a good squad player next season? The motivator question that I've already mentioned. If it pings in off your left foot and you have no idea about it, can you still claim a perfect hat-trick? Was one of the points. So somebody's still having a dig, even though he scored a hat-trick.
Was it the perfect hat-trick? Because there's one no going off his arse. Like I'm not sure if your left buttock counts the same as a left foot for
a left side of your body, right side of your body. I don't know how it counts.
We'll give him
but that was really it. There's a lot of miscellaneous stuff that we could probably cover another time. It's not specific. There was one point, we've gone from a season where the only non-Old Firm team we can't beat is St Johnstone to a season where the only non-Old Firm team we can beat is St Johnstone. Which is probably a fair point there as well.
Every other team's saying the same thing, though. So
we're no special. Okay, so Eilidh, we asked you a wee bit about you then. So how did you kind of end up in the position that you're in and the job that you're in? Was that like a sort of lifetime ambition, or did you find yourself in it by accident? Or
No accident. No, it was. I always knew I wanted to work in sport, and I always knew that was my passion growing up. I mean, I loved football, but I loved all sports. And I've told the story a million times, but I was about 13 years old, maybe, sitting watching. I used to watch Grandstand on a Saturday before going to the football with my dad. And it was the first time Hazel Irvine presented Grandstand, which for me, obviously being a female was something I related to. But for me, I think the biggest thing was hearing a Scottish accent on the biggest like national sports program that there was at the time, because it had always been English voices you heard. So I heard a Scottish female voice and I thought, right, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. So yeah, that's from then I wrote to Hazel. She wrote me back. She gave me some advice. I kind of worked towards that, got some work experience, my degree at uni was film media studies, but specialised in audiovisual production. So all about the sort of behind the scenes side of putting together TV and radio. And this hounded a lot of people until I got an opportunity. My first paid job was with Scott Sport. Don't know if you remember Scott Sport and STV, the football highlights. So I used to cut the match edits for the highlights programme and go to the games and log the matches and that sort of stuff. And yeah, kind of just gone from there. A lot of good fortune and really good people who've given me opportunities and taken a chance on me along the way. And here we are.
how have your experiences been with it? Like, what have been your sort of highlights?
Oh, so many. So many. I mean, obviously 2014 Scottish Cup final from a personal point of view. But at that season, I worked with the SFA doing we did a match every round of the Scottish Cup from the very first round all the way through. So we went to some we had a brilliant time. Production company came up from down south. It was really well produced. These videos, we did behind the scenes stuff. We met people from the clubs who worked with the clubs, volunteers, fans, and just went to some brilliant football clubs. We started off at Linlithgow Rose, we were up at Formartine, we went to Stenhousemuir, we went to all these amazing little clubs with so many good people and good volunteers that work there. And every month that when they were choosing the next game, can we do a St Johnstone game? Can we do a St Johnstone game? No. St Johnstone got to semi-final, so I got to do the semi-final and then obviously the final. So I was standing down just in the corner really at Celtic Park next to the corner flag when Stephen McLean scored the second goal against Dundee United, and being on the pitch when all that was happening was incredible. So that's more of a personal one than if you're talking big things. My first ever major tournament was the Women's World Cup out in Canada when England finished third, and I'd never seen women's football on a stage like that before. I mean, sellout crowds every single game pretty much. I mean, women's football in North America it's huge. I hadn't appreciated how huge it was. There was a march of about 30,000 people to the opening game in Edmonton, and it was incredible to see the women's game on that stage. So that was amazing. The Masters has been it's a pinch yourself moment every time you get to go to Augusta, and to be there 2019 when Tiger came back and won was incredible, absolutely incredible. So yeah, so many moments to see Scotland back at major tournaments, the Women's World Cup, the Euros last summer, and that game against Serbia to get to the Euros, even though I was in a studio in London, was ridiculous. The game against Israel at Hampden, that crowd when McTominay scored in the last minute, wild. So yeah, I've been so lucky. There's so many good moments and big moments, and I've probably missed a whole bunch out, but yeah, there's been a few.
That made it exciting than our day job, Matthew. Went into an office and
Aye, that's why we ask if you found it by accident. Like we both do what we do by accident. We had no plans of what we were going to do when we were kids. Colin and I know each other from school, and we never thought we would be doing this. Definitely, like for podcast, but a thing when we were and we definitely didn't think, oh, let's work in finance because, fucking who does?
I know. Is it golf that's your other sort of passion then, or is it is there other sports that come second to football?
Golf probably comes second to football. I watched a lot of rugby. My dad was into his rugby, so I watched a lot of rugby, and I enjoyed doing a lot of rugby earlier on in my career. I just haven't been able to continue it, and it's hard when everything's on at the same time. So when you're working, you can't watch anything. So I feel like I've got really out of touch with what's going on in the rugby world. But I've really enjoyed doing Edinburgh and Glasgow Warriors and the odd Scotland game. Did some Women's Six Nations as well, which was brilliant. You get amazing crowds out in France and Ireland, and England are just flying since they've gone professional. So I miss the rugby a bit, but yeah, golf has always been my second to football, really. So yeah, like I say, very lucky to get to work in two of my passions.
What was your backup? Like, if you hadn't made it in this career, what would you have ended up doing, do you think?
I have no idea. Like, genuinely, I had no plan B. No plan B. I'd probably have been like, I don't know, personal trainer in a gym or something like that. I don't know, but it was going to always be in sport and in fitness. So yeah, I probably would have, I don't know, yeah, physiotherapy or personal training or something like that. Was a dietitian, I don't know, something along those lines. I was always very passionate about fitness and health and sport, and yeah, but I never thought about a plan B, which is probably what helped me never give up on, you know, picking up the phone and continuing to harass people to say, please give me a job. Otherwise, I don't know what I'd be doing right now.
And what would you like to achieve that you've not achieved yet?
I've still never done a men's World Cup, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. Obviously, you know, Qatar brings up many issues that we won't go into, but to be at a men's World Cup and to see Scotland there would be incredible. I've never done a Summer Olympics. I've done a Winters, but I've never done a Summers. So yeah, there's still a few things I'd love to do, and yeah, there's a lot of there's a lot of things I would love to do, and you know, I've maybe been lucky in that I've had a little taste of it, but you know, it's trying to make that a regular thing. And yeah, FA Cup finals, Scottish Cup finals. You know, I've never worked other than doing that SFA sort of in-house. I've never worked at a Scottish Cup final, and yeah, these are the kind of things that you want to be at. You know, it's brilliant seeing a trophy being lifted. I got a lot of stick yesterday because I posted on Instagram with pictures from being pitchside yesterday at Celtic Park as they lifted the title. But see, it doesn't matter what the team is. Being in amongst those kind of celebrations, that's what you do sport for, is to win. Mm-hmm. And when you're in amongst that, like I say, it doesn't matter what team it is. It's just a great feeling, and you get that real buzz. For me, it's the next best thing to being one of the ones lifting the trophy, is to be that close to it. So you do get a real buzz, and yeah, these are the events that you want to work on. European finals and all that kind of stuff would be amazing.
Yeah, pretty cool thing to be involved in, to be fair. Colin, will we ask you some short bangers questions in, and we can wrap up? Do you want to kick off?
Yeah. Aye, so we'll start with a well-used one that we ask most people, really, right? So we got asked a question a while back. Now, I can't remember how it came about, right? It was some competition. You know, one of these sort of English towns where they roll a ball of cheese down a hill? And
it was called knob tossing, was what it was called. The competition is genuine knob tossing.
Yeah.
Knob's a biscuit. It's a biscuit.
It's a biscuit, in this occasion it's a biscuit. Yeah. So I was given I was trying to give the sort of the thing that they've done it before. The other counties do it with cheese and that. This one's a biscuit. If you the record, or their record, was only something like 30 meters or something, right? And you're like, we can easily beat that. But what biscuit would you pick? So what do you think is the best biscuit to pick to throw as far as you can to beat 30 meters, for example?
Now we're getting into what's a biscuit territory here.
Right. Shows your thinking.
Just thinking Jaffa cakes.
What were those things called? And they were like hot. They were like a scone, but they were solid. I can't remember what they were called. They're really sweet.
You're thinking it's a stone.
Or those ones you get in France where they're like round and they've got the cream in the middle and they're really soft. You can throw them. Can't remember what they're called. I'm obviously not up to date with my biscuit.
I think they'd be too light. I think that'd be too light. I think so. If it's got cream in it as well, I think that would
fall apart in the air. I don't think.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
very true. You've thought about this a lot more than I have.
Hours and hours. Yeah.
I might just go a good old chalky digestive.
Well, it's a good one because it's the right shape.
Yeah, and you could maybe frisbee it.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you're getting there now, definitely on the right track.
Other popular choices were Viscounts, were the mint Viscounts because they've got the wrapper, hobnobs, chocolate hobnob.
Yeah.
Because
Crumble.
Round out the good Marks and Spencer's Christmas biscuits, because they're quite heavy as well. So if it's windy in that as well, it would carry better.
or a Cadbury's finger for a javelin style.
So we're doing this with a straight face. Aye. Have you got the next one, or do you want me to try and pick another?
Yeah, I'll try to get this the right way around as well, because I think the last time I asked this, my options ended up being the same thing. So, right, you have to have a pet, right? And you can either have a pet dog with a dog body and a human head, or a dog head on a human body. Which one you picking?
Oh,
And why?
oh my! I mean, I think I'm going to have to go with the dog body
With a human head?
because a hood for the head or something.
We figured the human head one would have a human brain as well. We kind of went with that, but we thought that may become problematic because imagine trying to get to fetch something and be like, get it yourself.
Well, that's very true. That is very true. But
Sean Maloney, I asked Sean Maloney that question when in that period we had him, and he picked the same answer because he could talk to it. I think that's what he said.
well, that's nice.
That was the.
I just don't know how I'd feel about a human body just rocking up beside me on the sofa. Like that kind of freaks me out a wee bit. Wake up in the middle of the night with a human body on your bed. Like, I think I'd have to go dog body.
Yeah.
You want to take the next one, Colin?
Yeah, I'm going to. I've not got it on the list, but I'm going to ask you, what's your biggest pet peeve?
Wow, biggest pet peeve. God, I mean, I could get myself in all sorts of trouble here. In general, let me go for something that doesn't get me in trouble. I think it's just people who just judge and are not kind. Just be nice to folk. Just be nice to people. Yeah, that's probably it. People that don't treat people right. I don't like that.
That's on my
mantra on
list.
this
I've got a
podcast,
very
Colin,
lengthy list. It is, but I've got a list that's so big. It is on there. It is in the list, but
I've got
pet peeves. I could go on all night. I mean.
And then last one's a true or false. So, true or false, Jeremy Irons.
what? Who's
True or
Jeremy?
false? Jeremy Irons.
Who's Jeremy? Does
Or
he?
you could have true or false, Robbie Burns.
You ever seen Shooting Stars? No. Did you ever watch Shooting Stars? No. That's
A long time ago. I just remember the dove from above.
Yeah.
Yeah. We had the Wangers for the Bangers is our version of that, which we do normally, which is Colin's talking points. But we borrow a lot from off the ball and Shooting Stars and things like that. It's all good. Eilidh, that's us out. Thanks very much for giving up your Sunday night to come on and talk to a couple of idiots. We very much appreciate it.
No problem.
Wish you all the best for your games against Inverness.
Well, let's hope so. I'm glad we allowed you to go out on a high for your season. We were very generous of you doing that.
If you're listening, you can catch our Longbangers extra time that Colin and I recorded earlier. That's at longbangers.hubwave.net if you want to subscribe. Until then, the next thing we've got short bangers, so get your questions in. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
County line, I pledged upon. Well, they trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't drink what I know.